Hi, welcome back to Ahead of the Curve. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Teed, and today I'm going to be talking about hormones and your curve. I'm going to be discussing how your hormones influence curve progression, and I'll be focusing on women in particular today because there are so many more opportunities, unfortunately, for our curves to progress as females compared to males. Now, just a little bit of factoid information in case you didn't know this. Scoliosis tends to affect women 10 times more often than men. So it's a 10-to-1 ratio, female to male. And females tend to have a much higher likelihood of their scoliosis progressing later in life than males. And that is for good reason because there's 3 opportunities that females have for their curves to progress compared to just 1 opportunity for males. And this isn't to say that males don't experience curve progression later in life, because they do, but I'm trying to stay more focused today on this concept here, okay? So there are actually 3 times in a female's life that her scoliosis can progress. The first time is during puberty. The second opportunity is during pregnancy. And then the third time is during menopause. And this is due to hormonal changes during all those different periods of time. And I'm going to discuss more specifically some of those hormonal changes that happen at these different periods of time. So as far as puberty, we have the growth hormone surge, which occurs during puberty. So that seems like it's pretty intuitive what happens. During puberty, we have this period of rapid growth. So because of the surge of the growth hormone, that leads to rapid skeletal growth. And this fast growth can exacerbate scoliosis if it's already been diagnosed, or this is one of the times where it shows up really obviously because the spine is lengthening really quickly and any existing curvature may become more noticeable. So this is why it's really critical to discover and catch that somebody has scoliosis early on in order to break this cycle so that the scoliosis doesn't continue to progress during these growth spurts. So we also have a surge in estrogen and testosterone during this time. In girls, increased estrogen levels during puberty, they play a role in closing the growth plates of the bones, which marks the end of the growth period. So usually if somebody has been screened for scoliosis and we're doing this whole watch and wait thing, actually, I'm hoping that now we are doing more of a watch and act to address scoliosis instead of just watching to see if it gets worse. We are doing something about it while we are waiting. So usually during this time, the doctor is monitoring this individual's scoliosis, and then they look for the growth plates to close. That has to do with the Ricer sign. And it also correlates with somebody getting their period. Usually when somebody has had their first period, that indicates that this individual is finished growing. But you want to make sure that you're comparing the 2 things, because sometimes one will show up without the other, and in order for it to be more of a concise sign that this individual is done growing, both need to be marked off. So growth plates should be closed, and also the person and the woman needs to have had her period as well. So estrogen is also involved in bone density and bone health. Imbalances or significant changes in estrogen levels can affect bone density, which may impact the progression of the scoliosis. And then quickly, I will touch on boys. So with testosterone, it contributes to muscle mass and bone density. While boys, like I said, they have a lower incidence generally of scoliosis compared to girls. Those with scoliosis may see a change in their curvature due to the variations in muscle support and bone density influenced by the testosterone. So I think this might be another reason that male curves tend to progress much less than female curves. It's because males tend to have a higher muscle concentration than females. So they are stronger more naturally without really having to try. And that actually helps to stabilize the curve and keep it from progressing further than it is to start with. And then also melatonin, which we know regulates sleep. It's also been linked to scoliosis. So some studies show that melatonin deficiency or dysfunction plays a role in the actual development of scoliosis. It also influences bone growth and development, and some disruptions in that can affect the growth and alignment of the individual's curve. And then also thyroid hormones, we know that they regulate metabolism and they influence overall growth and development. So any abnormalities in thyroid function can impact the growth and density. So if you want to read further on that, in particular about puberty, I got a lot of this information from the Scoliosis Research Society. Now, I'm going to talk briefly about how the menstrual cycle can actually affect pain and discomfort in people with scoliosis. And this doesn't necessarily have to do with the progression of scoliosis, but more so, why is my pain so much worse in my back or somewhere else around my time of the month? And something happens when we are at that time. Your actual uterus, it swells and it descends in our abdominal cavity or your pelvic cavity, and that puts a lot of pressure down in the pelvic floor. It also affects tensioning on our SI joint. So a lot of times when somebody has their period, depending on the shape of your scoliosis, if you're more of a lumbar curve, this can affect you a bit more. The ligament, there's lots of ligamentous attachments and lots of things that are interconnected to your sacroiliac joint. So when we have that swelling of the uterus and dissension of the uterus, it actually puts more tension on all those structures, and that could be a reason why you're experiencing more back pain during that time. That's why it's really helpful during that time to actually elevate your hips up onto some pillows, or you can use the squishy ball the 9-inch squish ball, and elevate your hips for about 3 to 5 minutes, or you can go even longer if you're really feeling nice in that position. What that does, it actually helps. You're using gravity to help you bring everything up higher in your abdominal cavity, and it takes the pressure off of the back, off of the pelvis, and it can help with cramping and all sorts of wonderful things. The next time that scoliosis can progress in women is during pregnancy. And this seems to be a bit more well known. I feel like when I first was learning and trying to specialize in scoliosis, I would talk to people about this aspect and they were like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. But it seems like people are more often coming up to me and telling me that they have either experienced this or they've heard this, that their curve can progress during pregnancy. And that is due to a wonderful hormone called relaxin. And I mean, it does exactly what it sounds like. It helps the elasticity of all of our joints and ligaments so that our bodies can adapt to the growth of the baby throughout pregnancy. And it also prepare you for delivery. So it would not be a great thing if this didn't happen during this time. Then, our joints and ligaments wouldn't be ready for those changes to happen. And then, that's where you could get tears and things. So it's a good thing that the hormone is released in order to make things more elastic. However, if you don't have any understanding or awareness of your scoliosis, of your particular curve, your corrections going into pregnancy, this is when it's problematic, because with that elasticity, it's a lot harder to hold yourself in place. It requires more strength in a lot of ways in order to be in your more centered alignment. But you could also, in the same note, you could also really use this time to your advantage. The fact that you are more malleable during this time, it's a good time to address your scoliosis because you can make pretty significant changes during this time because of that elasticity. Okay, and now finally, the last time in a woman's life that the scoliosis can progress or change, and that is during menopause. So, during menopause, as you probably already know, our estrogen levels drop really significantly. And this has a really large role in altering our bone density. So, if you aren't doing anything and, like, let's say you're not exercising, you're not doing any hormone replacement therapy, your bone density will decline. And when our bones are less dense, they are softer, they are more prone and porous, they're more prone to compression fractures. And a compression fracture, an already scoliotic spine, adds to that asymmetrical loading of the vertebrae surrounding the segment that ends up getting the compression fracture, because usually it's one side of the vertebral body that collapses, and then it affects all of the surrounding segments as well. So some ways that you can disrupt that is through strength training, through hormone replacement therapy and supplements as well. So we also have a decrease in progesterone during this time, and it does have an influence on your bone health, but it's less direct than estrogen. So, the other thing that progesterone affects is our metabolism. So, um, if our metabolism is slowing down, it's harder to regulate your weight and stay at a healthy weight. And it's obviously more uncomfortable to carry around more weight on your joints and on your body. So this is another thing that can really impact the way that you are feeling in your body and your ability to stabilize your curve. So let's just wrap up with some management strategies and kind of a summary and some things that I've mentioned. So in adolescence, it's really important to address the scoliosis, catch it as soon as possible, and then get that individual into therapy, scoliosis specific therapy, maybe even bracing depending on the size of the curve. And then during pregnancy, making sure that you're going into your pregnancy already understanding your curve, already being really strong. Or I've had a lot of people come to me and they just newly found out that they are pregnant, and we go through that pregnancy together in the small coaching program. And I think it's been really helpful and helped them to feel confident and comfortable going into their pregnancy and then delivery. I have done several courses. I have not done any internal work, but I have done some Pilates, pre and postnatal Pilates, as well as some musculoskeletal pelvic health courses as well. So what we do with that information is we brainstorm the most comfortable positions for delivery. And also I give you a lot of suggestions for propping for exercise, adapting exercise while you're pregnant. One thing that's really nice is a lot of things that we are already doing and adapting for scoliosis are very similar to some ways that you would adapt things for pregnancy. That's like kind of a cool little crossover that happens. And just being as strong as you can going into your pregnancy is super helpful in preventing that your curve from progressing. And then finally, with menopause, looking into alternative options, making sure that you actually have your hormones tested. And one thing that I didn't mention is another thing that happens in menopause is because of the hormone changes, you tend to have pain, more generalized pain all throughout the body because inflammation levels are a lot more. So if you are waking up and one day your shoulder is hurting, and the next day your hip is hurting, the next day your knee is hurting, or all three are hurting at the same time, and that's unusual for you, that would be kind of a signal to go down the route of getting your hormone levels checked and looking into hormone replacement therapy. I know that that is something that a lot of people are wary of because of a study that was done, I don't know, 10 years ago, that linked hormone replacement therapy to higher levels of developing cancer, and that has actually been proven to be false. So obviously, always discuss things with your doctor first, make your own decisions, do your own research. Just don't just take my word for it. Look into it. And there is a lot of new studies out there that are showing that it is safe and okay to go the hormone replacement therapy route and not increase your risk for developing cancer if you've had cancer as well, this is still an option for you. So obviously, again, like I said, you can make your own decisions on this, do your own research, but it can really help you to feel like you're thriving a lot more throughout menopause instead of feeling like you're struggling on a daily basis. All right, that is all I have for today's session. All of these things that I talked about today, they can be helped by doing Pilates for scoliosis. I offer small group coaching, private coaching, and a scoliosis fitness class. And all those things can be really helpful to help you navigate this journey with your scoliosis, not feel so alone, and feel like you have the tools and understanding of how to direct your own healthcare. Until next time, I hope you stay well and stay ahead of the curve.